Hi everyone, this is Shantae, aka Shanteezy. Welcome to my analysis on today, Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 today. There's a great load to unpack so far, so I'm just going to get to it. I hope you guys went out and vote today if you live in New York, Kentucky, or I believe North Carolina. North Carolina had a Republican primary, but New York and Kentucky had a Democratic primary. So I'm going to, I'm going to get to this stuff. So in terms of COVID-19, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Despite elections, despite the civil unrest, we are in the midst of a pandemic. So with COVID-19, the cases in United States are 2.3. So the exact number is 2.345,845. So let me read that again. So it's 2,345,800. Let's read this again. Cases of COVID in the United States are 2,345,845 cases. That's million. As of deaths, we are at 176, and this is as of like 9:15. In terms of other countries that have COVID cases, we have in Brazil they have 1.1 million, which is 1,145,906 cases. Russia has 598,878 cases. India has 440,215. UK has 307,682. Italy has 238,833. But if you get to the lower tier numbers in the countries, specifically I'm spouting these out. Nigeria has 21,373. Ghana has 14,568. Senegal has 6,034. Haiti has 5,211, 5,211 cases. Kenya has 4,952. Jamaica has 670. Diamond Princess has 712. Guyana has 206. Trinidad has 123 cases, and St. Lucia has 19 cases of COVID. So my distinction of making these numbers is countries, especially the black and brown countries that Donald Trump said, especially Africa nations that are listed, and also Haiti that are shithole countries. Those quote-unquote shithole countries are doing much better with their COVID cases than the United States of America, which we're at 2.3 million. Read that number again for the United States for those who don't know. 2,345,845 cases of COVID. But because we have more testing, that's the reason why we got all these cases. Before it was New York was the reason why we got all these cases. New York was, and China did this, and now is we're doing more testing. So we don't know. But we all know that Donald Trump is a liar. In terms of a congressional hearing today on Capitol Hill, I think was economics and commerce. They had a thing today. I don't know what committee it was. I didn't really watch it, but I watched a little snippet of Dr. Fauci. He testified today. And it was an exchange between him and David McKinley, the congressional Republican that represents a district in West Virginia. He said this to Fauci. He asked, do you think Trump's being judged fairly, I guess, by the media or by Democrats? He didn't specify in his question. So Dr. Fauci said, that's an unfair question because you're asking me to pass judgment on the president, on the press threatening the president of the United States. McKinley said, it maybe is unfair, but numerous of times contradicted what the president says, you think he's being judged. So Dr. Fauci said, it depends on what you mean. I work with the White House, and everyone is doing what they can, possibly what they can, to what they need to do. McKinley asks, are you, quote unquote, regretting not advising people forcefully to wear masks earlier? Because at March 31st in the paper, they relied on a paper. He didn't cite the paper, that there was no conscience of wearing the mask. So Dr. Fauci basically rebutted, and it wasn't he raising his voice. He really got New York on him, because Dr. Fauci's from New York. For those who can tell by the accent. Dr. Fauci basically said, oh, so we're going to play that game. Let me explain what happened back then. He said it should be a yes or no question. He said, no, it should not. There's more than yes or no. But the tone of your question, I don't regret that. Don't regret that. And let me explain to you what happened. There was a paucity of equipment that our healthcare providers needed, who put themselves daily in harm's way, who taking care of people that were ill. What we did not divert masks and PPE from them being used by the people. So now we have enough, and we recommend it. So basically, we were told from before not to buy shields and face shields and everything because the healthcare workers needed, because people were still learning about this pandemic. Because even though Trump knew about it, they say he knew about it in January, but I felt like he knew about it months earlier. There was other reports that he knew about it in November. The fact that it came on our land, our soil in January in Seattle, he could have prevented this with more testing, but he didn't. So when the height of the virus spread through the country, we were told by the CDC and experts was not to wear a mask yet. But then the CDC issued that we had to wear a mask. So pretty much, Dr. Fauci basically explained that. And then that exchange I saw. And that was the exchange that was cut off. So to the point of the Republicans trying to, once again, blame health officials, Democrats, and the media of why there's a big outbreak of 2.3 million cases of COVID-19 in our country, when in fact it's the leadership of Donald Trump undermining his scientists and other experts around him, firing people when they sounded the alarm about the virus, getting us out of the World Health Organization when they offered us to buy kits and Trump said no. This is a way of Republicans diverting and not taking the task on him and distract and deflect. But guess what? You can't distract and deflect from 2.3 million cases of COVID-19. It's just impossible, right? Impossible. So from reporting from CNN on this case and on Trump basically saying that I told people to slow the testing down, Fauci basically stated, and I think I have the quote, Dr. Fauci said, we were never told to slow down testing from Donald Trump. And that's just a fact. We actually be doing more testing. So Donald Trump is basically telling his folks on a national stage in front of everybody, telling people to slow the testing down when in fact he did not speak to his health officials and experts to slow the testing down. He's saying this in front of a crowd because he doesn't want to do mass testing, and he probably will put out an executive order to stop the mass testing and stop the scientists from doing their jobs. When health officials, according to Madi Raju at CNN, a Capitol Hill reporter, in his reporting, he said that one of the men in charge of testing said that there is a need for testing and that we are able to understand the disease, who's infected, pass it on. We do appreciate contact tracing, and they want to do more testing. They want to test as many as 50 million people per day. And we have the capacity to do that. The question is, does this administration, does Donald Trump and Mike Pence want to test, along with Secretary Azar, want to test more people for COVID-19. Because they realize how the numbers are going up, and they're thinking about their political longevity and not thinking about the health and well-being of the American people. So that's why I need folks to read some articles. You don't have to spend a whole day, like I said, on this. Besides watching television, you can read. Reading is fundamental. You can do your research on these stats. And most of these stats I got from my COVID-19, I got it from the Johns Hopkins website. Johns Hopkins University. It's based in Baltimore, Maryland, I believe. But you can look on the website and get those stats and realize the African countries and the West Indian nations have the lowest COVID cases around the globe versus the quote-unquote Aryan places, including the United States of America. Pretty much. So with also staying on the topic of COVID-19, I wanted to bring to the attention of Trump's contradiction, saying that he joked about slowing down the testing, which he said he didn't joke. He wasn't kidding. I mean, obviously, I explained it before, that's his agenda. But I also wanted to bring was this whole 7 states seeing a whole bunch of cases of COVID-19. I didn't get the chance to get the stats because I was doing a couple of hours of research before the time, and I had to get ready to get prepared, face, mug, and all that. The 7 states, according to a CNN report, I believe. This is where I got this from? No, Washington Post. Excuse me, Washington Post, because I wrote it in pink. 7 states reported new highs for current COVID-19 hospitalizations, and that includes Arizona, Arkansas, California, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina. Texas and California have seen over 5,000 new cases today, and that's the highest of cases in a single day. And over 33 states and U.S. territories, included Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, I believe, have a rolling average of new cases that is higher than last week. And mind you, all these places have reopened. Some of them reopened in phases, and some of them reopened in full theory. With Texas having 5,489 cases of COVID-19, the Trump administration decides by June 30th they plan to end the support of helping other states testing. So they're going to end their support and their funding of testing, and that includes 7 sites in Texas. Also, Trump had a rally today in Phoenix, and 3,000 healthcare workers, physicians have warned Trump that they're going to have a New York problem because it's a hotspot. I think Phoenix have over 60,000 cases of COVID-19 because the last time yesterday it was 60,000. And also 3,000 healthcare workers have wrote to Governor Ducey that they want people, the public, the whole state to wear masks. But instead, he did not enforce that law. He instead issued, he let local governments in the state to enforce laws of wearing masks. But the mayor of Phoenix said she's not enforcing any rules on the face coverings at the Students for Trump event. So here's my whole thing with these red states, and even Democrats that some of them are in these red states. They're looking at their political future and not looking at the safety of the American people. And everybody's talked about New York, specifically, New York City, but New York City curve is actually flattening. We just opened phase 2, I believe. Yeah, phase 2 on Monday. Curbside restaurant, none inside the restaurant, 50% capacity. That's one. Two, retail, 50% capacity with social distancing measures. Places like Starbucks, curbside pickup, outside seating. But I haven't seen so many people so far around where I live at ate outside, because some of them have just pick up their orders and go because they see other places becoming a hotspot. But there has been some people not wearing their mask. Some people on my timeline not wearing their mask and gathering, which I'm going to do that in another separate video because that's another separate conversation about that. But yeah, these people are looking at their political future and they're not realizing that we have the most cases and we're not even the biggest nation. We only, 325 million people in this country? Not like other countries. Like China and Russia is big. And they got less cases than we have. They don't even have half of the cases that we have. And we can't control our testing. Like Europe, I read something that Europe, as sourced online, that Europe plans to, by July 1st, ban Americans from traveling to their country because we can't contain our COVID-19 cases. Our leadership is terrible. This is why elections matter. I always say to people, elections matter because when you don't vote, this kind of stuff happens. When it's a serious thing, and this pandemic is not only affecting the lives of the American people, it's affecting our economy. And what I read today in The Hill and a little bit of the Wall Street Journal, that Steve Mnuchin spoke with several of Republican groups in terms of possibly extending the taxes from July 15th and extend it maybe further. I don't know when, but we'll get an update soon. When I get that update, I'll let you know. But extending it for the second time because these business insiders, I believe, said in this remark that the tax payments, due to the tax payments and arguing to do, would give them economy some much more needed more beating, pretty much. It will give them more how can I say this? It will give them more time for their tax payments, as they say. So, but infrastructure is not covered in this. When our roads are jacked up, just because it's not a part of the COVID-19 pandemic doesn't mean that there's going to be a series of relief bills. People can't pay their rent. Businesses are still struggling, despite some places are still reopening. They have to make up the loss for like 2 to 3 months. When you lose 2 to 3 months of money, that's a chunk of money, depending on your service, because 60% of the American economy is based on consumer participation and consumer spending included. So that's what it is. Off enough of COVID. I'm going to get into a little bit of politics. So Kamala Harris basically, if y'all didn't see the video, I love that video. She had her exchange. I'm not going to read the whole exchange, but her exchange with John Cornyn was basically about police reform because they're voting on the bill tomorrow. A bill that Tim Scott, the jacked up ass bill that don't ban chokeholds and, that don't ban no knock arrest and all that, jazz. So, John Cornyn tried to undermine Kamala Harris and asked her if she's aware of these Senate rules. And Kamala Harris basically said to him, it's talking about the Police Act. And she was like, it sounds like the, what did she say? Some of the police, of the anti-lynching bill. Rand Paul has obstructed the anti-lynching bill for a couple of weeks. He held it up in the Senate because he didn't believe that it was not about lynching, which we all know it's crap. We all know it's BS. And she basically said she's not voting for the bill tomorrow because, like, it don't ban chokehold. You can't give a piecemeal. You can't do this for that. And she's right. You can't do this for that. And the Republicans try to do that. And his face was stuck after she basically explained to him the whole stuff about what's in the bill and everything about voting for the bill and presenting it together. So his face was stuck. The exchange is too long. I'm not going to read it. You can see it online. But he basically accused Kamala Harris of having this discussion behind closed doors. She said, indeed, that's what's the beauty of the Judiciary Committee, and our meetings are public. Because they want public meetings. The problem is the Republicans, they want to do a piecemeal. You can't do that because you want it. These people are looking at their political future, people. They're looking to get brownie points from the protesters, but the protesters ain't having it. When the people speak, that's when you know it's real. But she put him in his place, and that right there is grounds for her being the VP. I hope Joe Biden and the Biden campaign and the transitional team and the VP vetting team are paying attention. That's all I'm saying. As for the Obama and Biden, that is true. The current administration is not serious about the police reform. They're more concerned about November, and I don't think it's looking too good. But it's all about turnout. You have to have turnout. Turnout is important. That's why today's primary determines November's turnout. November's turnout is basically based on how many people are going to show up for the polls. People think primaries don't matter. Yes, they do. My congressman won his primary seat. Because why? Because he showed up to stuff. And he also showed up to stuff for black people and Dominicans. That's all I'm saying. But back to what I was talking about. The Obama and Biden campaign. They had a campaign, a virtual campaign thing today. And President Obama and Joe Biden they raised a lot of money. They raised like about over $7 million. And President Obama basically called Trump's presidency shamable. And I'm going to read the quote. He recalled his time. So he said, Trump and others had practiced a shambolic, disorganized, mean-spirited approach to government that put in existential danger to American lives. What we saw in the last couple of years is a White House enabled by Republicans in Congress and a media structure that has not just deferred in terms or policy, but has gone out the very foundations of who we are and who we should be. We can't be complacent or smug, a sense that somehow it is obvious that the president hasn't done a good job because, look, he won. He won once. This is serious business, and whatever you've done so far is not enough. And it's true. We're 2.3 million cases of COVID-19, almost at 2.4. People are seeing cases above 5,000 new per day. How would you do a good job? So Trump's response was, don't forget I am only here because of him and Biden. Trump said, I'm only here because of them, because they did a good job. They didn't do a good job. We wouldn't have been here. There would have been no reason. First of all, you was there because of white anger and white fear. Let's be real. You wasn't there because people were enthused by your campaign. People did not want the woman that was more competent. They wanted the white bastard who was dumb as hell. That's who they wanted. White fear, white anger, not even white guilt, but they're going to feel white guilt real soon. That's why voting is essential. It's important that we vote. Because when you vote, you have a voice. When you don't vote, you don't have a voice. When you don't vote, don't bring your ass next to me and have a conversation. Because I'm going to read you. It may give you a history and an economic and financial and accounting lesson. When you don't vote. I think after this, I'm not quite as sure what the future will hold, but I hope that Republicans won't be voted in for the next remaining 10, 15 to 20 years of my lifetime. Because they have not served the American people for almost 55, over a little 55 years. Since they voted down since they have not voted for the Civil Rights Act, they haven't been for the people since. And because they had the Dixiecrats join them, it's the reason why the party is jacked up the way. It's more white men than ever. You had some black people in the Republican Party who actually did some kind of good work. You didn't agree with their policy, but they were fair enough. But now, some of those black people that used to work in Republican politics became independents. Some of them still say conservative. Some of them went moderate because they don't like Donald Trump. They don't like what he represents, and they don't like the fact that he's racist. And some progressive whites, honestly, some of them are not our friends, neither. You got a smidget, and then you got some that have these progressive outlets that are not our friends. It's no shade to Bernie, because Bernie is no problem for me, even though he says corporate Democrats. I don't like that language, but in theory, he's not the problem. It's the progressive pundits are the problem. Because some of them like to suppress the vote too. So you got to be careful with some of these progressive pundits as well. And so, therefore, like I said, because I think I'm going to end this because the last topic is election matters. Elections does matter. Do your research on your candidate because it's worth it. Joe Biden was not everybody's ideal candidate, but damn sure, he's actually a decent man. Because he respected the former president, who was a black man, who was about nearly 20 years younger than him. He didn't overstep him. And that's why older black folks, older than 55 or older than 65, beloved him. They liked him because he did not disrespect President Obama. He did not try to overstep that man. He did everything that President Obama told him. And President Obama was old enough to be his son, even though he was older than Biden's kids. So with that being said, we got to make sure hopefully Biden chooses the right black woman. People talking about Ayanna Pressley. People talking about Stacey Abrams. It's not their time. Stacey Abrams never held a federal position, and Ayanna Pressley is very comfortable being in the Congress because the people of Massachusetts love her, and she loves the Congress. And to tell you the truth, the legislative body does hold a little bit more power, in theory. And she still want to get her feet wet. She has a future in the Senate. That I agree. I wish she was running for Senate, but you know, a Kennedy's running for Senate. I hope he does. And if he doesn't get it, he has a future in a presidential administration, which his grandfather, which was Robert Kennedy, served in one. But, yeah, elections matter. And we hopefully we get the right, thank you. And we hopefully we get the right VP. And people may think, why Kamala Harris? The woman has knowledge in our foreign policy. She knows our judicial system, of course. And she speaks like she's in the executive branch and had executive power for quite a while. And you need someone that you can't hold hands with, because our world is a mess. We are a hot-ass mess. Like I said, when we are a hot-ass mess, we are a hot-ass mess. Like, we isolated. We can't even go to Europe as of July 1st. Let's be real. Europeans is like, you don't have y'all shit together? Bye. And UK only has like 300,000 cases versus United States 2.3 million, almost 2.4. Almost 2.35 million cases of COVID. Like, yeah, elections matter. So with that being said, I hope you have a good night. Stay tuned tomorrow. I may have some stuff for you guys. Take care.